if there is an avoidance of a student, there will be avoidance of two things. One, someone does not want to work hard because they're not interested in it. Second, if someone is making an effort and still they're not understanding. I think that's the catch. If a child is telling I'm working hard trying to understand, but still I'm unable to make an effort, I think that calls for a parent to be brave enough to get a screening done. If a screening happens at that level, and if it comes out that the child might have a learning disability, the support that the parents or the loved ones give them will be transformational for them for the rest of their lives. It will tell them that they're not alone. I don't think it's a good disability to have. I mean, no disability is good, but because it's so invisible, everyone will think, यार सबके पास तो कोई ना कोई कमी होता है, सब कोई हर कोई अच्छे से थोड़ी पढ़ पाता है.
Hello and welcome to the India Autism Center podcast. We are at the Purple Fest in Goa, and we have with us here one of the brand ambassadors from the International Purple Fest, and Sai Balaji, who has a specific learning disability. Now, when we talk about disabilities, we often have conversations around visible disabilities. And that is why this session is going to be so interesting, because we're going to talk about a couple of invisible disabilities that he himself has, how he has coped with them, and his advice to young students and their parents. Thank you so much, Sai Balaji, for joining this podcast. Can I call you Balaji in the future? In the conversation?
Bala also.
Bala, okay. Bala, you have dyslexia?
And dysgraphia.
And dysgraphia.
And ADHD too, but ADHD is something that does not come under the disability parameter in India.
No, but still, I think it's an important conversation to have on ADHD as well in that case.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about how did you get diagnosed with...
Well, it was an accident in the sense. It was after the first lockdown.
Very late in life.
Yes, that's why I said it's an accident. I think it was after the first lockdown, everyone went through a lot. As the second lockdown was starting, there was some deaths in the family too. Not immediate, but nearby.
You're talking 21, 22.
Yes, we're talking about 21. 21 more precisely. Things were not going good anywhere. And I was also not feeling well mentally. And that was my second year or first year PhD. That means fully I have to start my research work. There was a lot of to and fro that was happening with writing, so on. Anxiety was up. And I never knew that I had a problem. So for me, for example, these letters, they're always blurred. In the sense, it seems like they're meeting or the edges are not sharp. So I thought it was a problem with my eyesight. I thrice went to the doctor. Doctor said, your eyesight is fine.
And you're trying to say that before this you could read properly?
No.
You always had this, right?
I always had this. Maybe I was never conscious that much. Or I don't know. There's a moment that happens in your life, right? You just become conscious. Oh, why is it so blurred? Why is it happening? I mean, I was reading for 15 minutes. Headaches used to come. There's a lot of difficulty reading complex things.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because dyslexia is there from the beginning in that.
It was there, and it was there. But the intensity was never there that way, because PhD is a lot of intensity. MPhil, still there was a problem. But the moment in PhD, it's like diving into something that you don't know. And you have to read to dig out a structure out of it. Then I slipped into depression. And during the diagnosis of it, I had a very wonderful therapist. I would like to thank her, because I think she was spot on. She said it's not anything nearby, and she did not diagnose it immediately also. She took a while to understand what is happening. And they said, maybe there's an element of learning disability that you have, and I want to explore this a bit more. And they started to understand what my education was, how did I cope up with. And in that process, he said, I'm now sure that there is a serious chance that you might be having learning disability. And I was immediately taken aback, like you would be taken aback, right? So many questions that you would have for your life. So many questions seems to be answered in that moment of diagnosis. And it took me almost a year to accept it. And she was like, do you want to take a test? I said, yeah, why not? But she said, there's no battery test that's available for adults. I was shocked. Why would it be the case? I was a bit taken aback. She's like, no, that's how it is. You'll have to take a private test. So then I figured out there's this clinic, Children's First in Delhi. It's for the adolescents, but I knew someone, and they did tests for a bit older people, because people wanted to study in US, UK, and where there is an equal opportunity for people having learning disabilities. So these tests are valid over there. So they did that test. It took a couple of months, series of things. They came up with an 18-page report. What was a good ad? What was a bad ad? What is it? Then there is this spectrum that came out that yes, it's dyslexia and dysgraphia. And in the process of therapy also, it came out later on that there is ADHD too. So it took almost 1.5 years for the whole diagnosis to come out. And then this whole journey of me, where I realized that there's no test for adults, then the curiosity inside me, like, why is there no test? Because I thought...
Is it an Indian problem that there is no test for adults, or
Yes.
globally there is no problem?
No, it's an Indian problem. Because the RPWD Act says SLD is a disability. And in order to get the disability certificate, you need to be tested. And the test in India is only at the development stage. That is for maybe till 18 years, 16 years. What about people who never knew, like me? And that was not there previously. That came only in 16. And that's where my special case came up. I filed a lot of RTIs. I read a lot of literature. I looked upon wherever in the world where there are tests for dyslexia. There's research that's coming up that says that adult dyslexia is one of the bigger challenges in higher education across the world. The fact that there is a sense of awareness within the policy circles that this disability is just not limited to, it's not only in the learning age, but it is something that is there at a greater stage. That's how disabilities are, right? But when the focus is only on children, people think, अच्छा बच्चों को मदद कर देंगे, बाद में बड़े होके उनको जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगा. And that discourse I felt was a bit troubling for me. And then with a tunnel vision, I kept looking for answers for adult dyslexia, looking for questions, policy measures. That led to me finding that the guidelines of the government only prescribe for children. Then I filed a case in the court saying that, what about me?
Which court was this?
Supreme Court.
Okay.
It's still pending. I filed it in 2023 through my lawyer, Govind Manoharan, through his chamber. A very dear friend of mine. He's not a disability activist, but he understands the issues from the core. He helped me frame the questions and to take it up. In this process, a funny thing happened. The first hearing, one of the judges, the honorable judges, we brought in the best literature across the world, the diagnosis and everything. We put it in the petition. But the judge could understand this disability only through one thing. He asked, "Ye wo Tare Zameen Par wala mamla hai." A good side and a bad side. If the movie would not have come, people would not have known about it. But because the movie came, now the people can understand about it. But the bad side is they think it's a problem with children. Like, I just was wandering around all the stalls, was looking around all the technologies and so on. Everything here is for children. I'm talking specifically about learning disabilities. There's technology, dyslexia, everything. What about adults? Because that conversation never started. People don't even know about it. And that made me more curious because there are a lot of people who discontinue studies or who might not find interest in it because they've come to an age where they don't want to listen to someone telling you're bad at this now. What do? The easiest way is to quit. So imagine the kind of dropouts that might have happened because they don't even know that it's not their problem. I mean, it gives me a scare. It makes me sad.
My question is that with this condition, how did you manage going through school and some of the top colleges, including an MA and an MPhil at JNU and international politics, which is very competitive to get into academically, with this condition?
I think the one good thing that was my audio visual was good. So understanding, and I do not have a problem. There are people who are not good at that also because their wiring is, I mean, I call it brain wiring. थोड़ा गड़बड़ है हम लोगों का. वो अभी भी उनका ऐसा ही है. तो now someone challenges you, saying you're bad at it. There are two ways to deal with it. Either you give up,
or you work harder.
You work harder because it hits your ego badly. The shame, you take the shame so badly that you don't want to be shameful. I went the other way now. Whenever someone said you can't do it, I went an extra mile to get it. I remember someone where I was interning for a while. He said, you can't get into JNU. I said, why not? It took me 3 attempts, but I went through it. Then someone said, your language is bad even when you're in a graduation. Your vocabulary can't get better. I said, no. I worked on it. I figured out my own system. I used to write down 5 new words every day in a diary, and I did that for 3 months. And I took up a challenge that every day I look up at those words so that I build a visual memory of it. Same thing happened in my school. I would never pass Indian languages because the structure of the words is such difficult that my brain can't comprehend. Hindi I would always flunk. Telugu barely pass. English it's still better because the letters are few and you can still manage, mix and manage.
Yeah.
Even till date, I might because I speak a lot of Hindi, I might understand reading Hindi, but I can't write Hindi. Imagine how bad it feels to say that. Or I can't write Telugu. That's my mother tongue. I can read it a bit, and sometimes I can't read it also because it gets so confusing. And it's like, despite how much effort you make, you still keep forgetting it because your mind can't remember it. So that's when I started making peace with it. That मुझे ये सब चीज जहाँ पे भी ये लैंग्वेज का झंझट होगा मुझे नहीं करना है. Maybe that was the reason why I wanted to study mass communication because I wanted to be a director. But then I figured out, oh, you have to be a nepo kid, otherwise it's difficult. I left it. So it was not easy. There were challenges everywhere. I had to figure out my own methods to survive, and there was no support system. I had to do it all alone. But that system had to collapse somewhere, and it collapsed during my PhD. So in order to complete my PhD, I had to hire a writer, where I would sit with the person, say this is what I wanted to write, give a context, then prepare and give something. Then they would formulate and send it back.
Right.
That's how I could manage to complete that project of my PhD. Without that, I would not have been able to do it.
No, that's really fascinating. Yeah. What do you think are the early signs somebody should observe as an adult that they have dyslexia and dysgraphia?
It is very difficult to say in that early childhood because children nowadays, at least in the curriculum that is there, I mean, till you're 6, 7, generally it is considered you're allowed to fail. In the sense you will not be able to write your words properly and so on. The complexity arises once they hit the first standard, second standard. I think even there, if a child is unable to cope up with the stress of a school, and I know a couple of people, I think that there's something. I mean, there should be a screening of students at that level. Their ability to communicate. If they're trying to avoid school, they're trying to avoid class.
Were you trying to avoid class in school?
I would always try avoid learning.
And yet you did a PhD.
Well, now I have to avoid it to survive. So I can't stick to that. If there is an avoidance of a student, there will be avoidance of two things. One, someone does not want to work hard because they're not interested in it. Second, if someone is making an effort and still they're not understanding. I think that's the catch. If a child is telling I'm working hard, trying to understand, but still I'm unable to make an effort, I think that calls for a parent to be brave enough to get a screening done. Because if a screening happens at that level, and if it comes out that the child might have a learning disability, the support that the parents or the loved ones give them will be transformational for them for the rest of their lives. It will tell them that they're not alone. But if they're left on their own, I don't think it's a good disability to have. I mean, no disability is good. But because it's so invisible, everyone will think, यार सबके पास तो कोई ना कोई कमी होता है. हर कोई अच्छे से थोड़ी पढ़ पाता है. I mean, मैं भी नहीं पढ़ पाता हूँ. So I keep giving them an example. You're not running like Usain Bolt. Does not mean that you're disabled, right? It's just that you don't have the capability or you're not trained enough to run like an Usain Bolt. So the problem is, despite the training, if someone is not able to do it, that's where the catch is. If despite the hard work a child is unable to perform, there requires a screening there to understand whether there is a chance that the child is having.
What would you advise to parents of children with these specific learning disabilities?
One, be with an open mind. It's not their fault. Two, they will have to find ways to give the child support.
What kind of support are you talking about?
When I say support, to help the child learn. For example, to understand which is the best learning method the child is comfortable with. Sometimes parents reciting something will help a child understand better. If that is a method, then they'll have to start with that. Maybe then slowly tell the child, now see, I've given you the push, now you'll have to start learning. You learn, you make mistakes, we are not going to judge you. We are with you. We are not worried about what you score, but I only want to understand whether you are able to understand and maybe articulate it in the way you can. If parents start doing this bare minimum, you'll see a lot of difference in children having the confidence to do what they want. Because sometimes, because of this pressure, the rat's race that they call, a child might not want to do the things which a neurotypical person might want to do. They might be good at something else. But how will the parents support them? By saying, no, you'll not survive in this world, kick that away, just do this engineering and survive. But they'll not be able to do that too. It's not hand-holding. I don't believe in hand-holding, but it's just saying that I'm behind you. If you fall, I'm here. You stand up, I'm standing with you. I'm not going to laugh. I'm not going to call you names. I'm going to say you will be able to do it. If there's anything that you're not able to do it, let me know. Then I'll pitch in.
And what would be your advice to somebody who's a youngster with dyslexia and dysgraphia? You've spoken about what the parents should do, but what should the person themselves?
First is not to feel shameful. Because one thing that an invisible disability brings in you is a lot of shame. Because you think you're at fault for everything. That's how everyone tells. To come to a realization that it's not your fault. To allow yourself to heal. I think that will be the biggest thing that they'll be giving it to themselves. First and foremost. Second, to identify if they really want to do it. Because through this process, there's someone who reached out to me. There are many people who reached out to me saying, I also go through the same, but there's no test. A parent reached out to me about a child. The student is in late 20s, got a fully funded PhD in Houston University in US, in cinema studies program, but is unable to cope up because of dyslexia. Unless she gets a certificate, the university is not going to give her relaxation. She dropped out. She is unable to come out of the room, unable to eat food, perpetually feeling anxious and shameful. Now, what do I tell her? Her mother is completely accommodative. I'm completely understanding. She says that there's a bit I can do. There's nothing more than this I can tell her. Completely we are with you. It's fine. Now, imagine she wants to pursue that PhD because she loves it. I told her there's a method for it. There's a method. If you can afford, hire a writer. Don't be shameful about it. Think it's like you have a broken leg, you use a cane. You're sick, you use medicines to get better. So you want to complete something because you're passionate about it. You will have to create a support system, an institutional support system that might not be given by the government as a right, but you'll have to create it to survive. And people who don't have the privilege to do that, they suffer the dropout. But if you do have a method in which, because my friends, my loved ones did provide me that. That's the reason I could complete that PhD. If they were not there, no chance. To identify, yes, this is what I need, and these are the X, Y, Z that I need. If I'll be able to arrange this, maybe I'll be able to achieve this and feel satisfied. Now, because I had that support system to complete my PhD, I don't have that support system to do my job if I want to be in academia. So it became difficult for me. I had to quit it. If I have a certificate and if it's a right for me to have an accommodation of that or relaxation in the workspace, then I can fight for it. I can say, give me a writer. Give me an assisted person who will assist me in things which I can't do. Right now, because that identification itself is not there, this accommodation is not possible. So for people with this invisible disability in the adulthood, for them the career choices are also limited. They have to drop out if they have to survive. For me, the only option was health first or job first. I said health first.
What are the kind of reasonable accommodations a corporate can give to somebody with dyslexia and dysgraphia to be more welcoming towards them?
One, to identify that what are they good at. For example, if someone is really good at the audiovisual medium, maybe not giving them tasks that is text heavy. task that has to deal with a lot of reading and writing. But if it has to do a lot of reading and writing, then maybe assist them with someone who can actually help them in doing. Now you have the assisted technologies, voiceovers, voice reading. AI to an extent is a disguise, blessing in disguise, but at the same time, it's also leading to a lot of job losses. But for this specific thing, to identify and say, okay, this is a thing, this is a job you have. What is it that you need? ABC. Fine, this is the support we can give you. Do it. We will not judge you on based on how you are doing it. We will judge you on basis of what is the end product. If that kind of liberty is being able to give to people, then you will see people actually wanting to do and wanting to progress in life rather than running away from that. Imagine how can someone survive? They'll be worried to write an email. But if you say, fine, write an email using an AI, I have no problem. We are giving that flexibility to you, but let me know if you have written it from there. Imagine the confidence that they get. Give instructions. For example, if I have to write something very complex, what I do nowadays is I type out instructions. I give out pointers to a chat GPT. I say, draft something for me. It gives me a draft. I take it out and I edit it. It is easier for me. But I'm doing it silently now. If someone says, okay, you're eligible to do that, we don't have a problem if you do that. Imagine the confidence and the strength someone will have. That's the accommodation I'm talking about. This is one example that I can think of. There will be many.
No, that's a great example, of course. Yeah.
There would be many.
Yeah.
So it's only when you figure out actually what people are in need of or want of, only then you will be able to give that. In academia, I understand plagiarism and AI is one of the biggest problems. But if someone having a learning disability said aloud, okay, fine, I want to know your original points. Let me know. The teacher, the faculty says, okay, I'm listening to you. This is it. Now, I don't mind if you are using assisted technology to write it. But write it, edit it yourself and let me know.
No, I get your point.
Yes.
But moving on from here, what made you realize you have ADHD and what were the symptoms that you had?
I think it came out in the therapy only, in the sense I never realized that I had ADHD. There was an indication once during one of the conversations I had. One thing I was there, it sometimes is difficult for me to remember things where I kept it. And this is something generally people have. So I just said, everyone has it. Wow, what is the big thing? But if I kept something somewhere and if someone removed it, I would have a rage. Why did you do that? Who asked you to? Because I know if it's not there, it's a pattern that I've created. If it's not there, it's not a normal emotion. Someone has shifted it. It's an emotion. No. You have changed the whole pattern that I've arranged because I've somehow figured out to survive. This is a small example I'm giving.
Yeah.
Another example is I can't manage time that much. In order to do that, I keep creating digital maps. If I have to be there at somewhere at 6 o'clock, I start planning a day before. Oh, this is what I have to do. This is what the kind of stress it puts on your body. And unable to organize things. Lapse of concentration. Again, these all things everyone has, but it's the intensity and the scale at which they keep coming up. So it was in this process I got to know, and as I said, it gave a lot of it answered a lot of unanswered questions that I had in my life, and it said, oh, this is why you are like this. It's fine. I used to have those days, 3-4 days when my energy would be down. It will take me a lot of time to start my day. I would suddenly forget in the day whether I brushed my teeth or not. I would not remember, oh, did I take a head bath today or not? Because I can't remember. I can't think of it. Small things. And as the responsibility increases, as you have many tasks to do, you end up missing something. And that becomes a problem.
What are the coping mechanisms you would recommend to somebody with ADHD who's listening to this podcast?
One, to understand themselves first. For me, one of the biggest thing is, for example, if I've decided I have to call you, I'll call you. Sometimes it would go for 10 days. So I would have thought, I have to call my mother today. And I was like, no, I'm busy, I'll call tomorrow. Again, no, busy, I'm calling. It would happen 10 days. I forgot that I forgot to call my mother. But in my mind, it is like, कल ही तो मैं सोचा कॉल करूंगा, but 10 days have passed. I think the first thing is, if there is a schedule that one has to follow, it is better to write it down. And you'll forget to pick up the diary also. So what I generally do is, in my mobile phone, I put schedules and I put alarms. So that gives me time to think, that gives me space to work around. For example, one of the best advices I got is, I always have a fear that I'll reach late. So I was told, don't tell the exact time to someone. If you think you have to meet someone at 4, please tell them that I can only come between 4 to 4:15.
Give a range.
Give a range. Because the person then also will be like, okay, they've given a range. So the end point is 4:15, the early is 4. So they will also plan something accordingly to be there. So that started working for me. Second thing, whenever I have to clean my room, I call someone. I say, just stay there. Keep telling me what I have to do. Or if I'm missing something, if I'm arranging the room, cleaning it, if there's something missed out. So that I'm not having to think. I'm taking some help, someone to tell me. Organizing things, managing things. I take a help of someone. I keep telling. Sorry, I just have to turn off my alarm. That's my पानी का alarm.
अच्छा.
7 बजे घर में पानी चलाना होता है. भूल जाते हैं. So I kept an alarm. 7 in the evening, 7 in the morning. So it reminds me.
Wow, this is a real world example of what we were just talking.
So there are many such. When I had to take medications or any medication, I would put an alarm, medicines. And I'll put one alarm in the morning, carry the medicines. So phone became an essential part for that. Using the technology in the way that it can help you. And trying to tell friends that, see, my energy is down today. I might not be able to participate in a wholesome conversation, but if you're still fine, I'll come out because I want to come out. They understand. So it helps you. So you're not under a pressure that you have to perform or you have to be active. They're fine you being around, to figuring out what would be that one aspect that will help you regain or cope up energy. For me, one of the best things is lying around for a day or so, just watching something. My brain slowly regains its energy. And now, earlier I used to feel bad about it. Now I'm not working or anything, but nowadays I'm fine with it. I said, things might be slow for me. Things might not be the best case scenario like it is for neurotypical people, but at least I'm not putting myself under a lot of stress. So I think to identify those and allow your body to understand it and your mind to understand it is fine. That's not an issue. It's one of the biggest achievement I think we can.
Bal, I've taken a lot of your time today. So,
Thank
but I wanted to ask you one final question, which I've been asking everybody who's come for this podcast. What do you think can the common citizen of India do to make India an equal opportunity country for people with disabilities?
I think an honest conversation is the first starting point to happen. When I say an honest conversation, when someone would ask, what is it that you go through? They'll also understand what are the hindrances that are coming in your way, that are creating a trouble. Maybe when people understand that, they will do a bit to give some kind of accommodation in day-to-day lives. My own example, when I told my friends, this is what I have, dyslexia, this is what I'm suffering through, this is what I'm going through. My friends ensured that they would not talk about it with me. They would only tell me one thing. You need help, you'll ask. We will do it. But we will not do it out of charity, but we'll do it as a right for you. And those conversations really helped me to figure out things. People said, okay, you're not being able to pay me, fine. I'll do this for you, but you will have to pay me in a way later on when I need some help from you. Fine. Give and take, still fine. People understood that there is some support that one needs and we will give it in the way we can. I think an honest conversation as a starting point with your loved ones, people who care about you and people for whom you matter. I think that will be a best case scenario for people with disabilities to start off with, and for the society also to understand, okay, I'm here, what is it that I can do? I think that will be a good starting point.
Thank you so much for joining this podcast. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.